Good morning, everybody, and I hope everybody is doing well out there and is staying cool. I thought we'd go ahead and talk about today why so many people out there hate their jobs and what you can do about it if you hate your job. And I thought this would be a good topic to talk about, for those reasons. First of all, that so many people hate their jobs. And the other thing is, like myself, last night, for example, I was dreading going into work. I work on night shifts, so I work as an operations manager at Amazon, and the stuff that I deal with on a regular basis in a shift sometimes makes me dread going in because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the babysitting of the associates. I don't want to deal with the constant paperwork and the bureaucracy and the politics from other managers and higher ups telling you how to do things and why things need to be done a certain way. Look, I, have learned to tune everything out emotionally at my job. And that's the first piece of advice I would give you if you're one of those people who absolutely dreads going into work and hates your job, is first of all, find a way, if you can, and I know this is tough, but find a way to emotionally detach yourself from your job. And I mean that. In the heat of the moment, yes, there's going to be stuff that stresses you out. Yes, there's going to be stuff that gets under your skin. Yes, there's going to be people who annoy you. There's going to be things that happen in the workplace that result in you not enjoying yourself. Let's just say that. And I deal with this stuff on a continual basis. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate out there. But find a way to try to detach emotionally. And this is easier said than done because our jobs are tied to our livelihood a lot of times, right? So whether you are an accountant, whether you're somebody who works at a gas station, whether you're somewhere in between, you most likely go to work because you are trying to make a living, because you have bills to pay, right? So it doesn't matter what type of job you have. Most of the time, people go to work because they have to make a living, because they have to find a way to pay their bills. And sitting at home is not going to do that for most people. And what we talk about on this channel in particular is how to escape, or eventually escape, the 9-to-5 grind, as I'm in the process of trying to do, and how you can ultimately try to retire with perhaps less than you think, and perhaps less size of a portfolio than you might think. A lot of people think you need millions of dollars to retire these days because of the cost of living. I don't believe that one bit. But in the meantime, we have to find a way to try to be content and to try to remain sane in the midst of our struggles with our career, with our job, with things going on in our employment. So with that being said, there's always going to be those hiccups. And like I said, the first thing I would recommend is detaching emotionally. Now, you can do this a number of ways, but the main thing is, if you have a negative thought, try to switch it to a positive thought. And that's easier said than done as well. The other thing is, I'm a true believer that you can speak things into existence. So if you're going to go into work and you're going to say things like, I'm going to have a shitty day, you're probably going to have a shitty day. And if you're going into work and you're going to say, you know what, we're going to have a great day today. Everything's going to be great. We're going to have a fantastic day. Everything's going to go well. You're probably going to have a great day. And I know it sounds kind of crazy. It might seem like some new age mysticism or, just speak it into existence and it'll come to pass. But I've noticed this in my own life. Whether you believe it's through speaking it into existence or, waking up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning where, you have a crappy morning and everything else just goes to crap because you made some negative comments in the morning, you're in a bad mood, and everything just went terrible after that, right? So I'm a strong believer that that initial tone can set the entire tone for your day. So that's the first thing, right? Try to detach emotionally. Try to do that by, changing negatives into positives. And ultimately, at the end of the day, just try to do anything to get out of that work mindset. Try to stop thinking. Try to stop obsessing about your work. At the end of the day, it's not going to do anything. You're just going to end up stressing yourself out more. Ultimately, your boss doesn't care. you shouldn't care either. You know, if your boss is going home and they're not thinking about work, why are you thinking about work? Why are you thinking about what you said at work? Why are you thinking about, you know, what this person did to you or what happened here, what happened there? All of that stuff is meaningless. And the sooner you realize that, and the sooner you realize that most people don't give a shit, right? Most people do not give a crap what happened at work, what you did at work. You know, yeah, there's always going to be those gossips and those people who talk behind others' backs and whatnot, but you can just try to avoid those people to begin with. So that's the first thing, right? Detach emotionally, stop obsessing about your job, stop obsessing about promotions, right? Stop obsessing about moving up the corporate ladder. Ultimately, one thing that's really helped me is transitioning out of this mindset of, you know, depending on an employer for income to how can I obtain my own income without an employer. That mindset, even if you're not there yet, I'm not there yet, right? But even if you're not there yet, that mindset alone of I don't need this employer. You know, one day I'm going to have my own business. One day I'm going to be able to retire on dividends. That positive thought, that continual reinforcement of, you know, no, this is just a job, right? That's another thing. This is just a job. I will get through this, right? This is just a job. This does not define me. I chose to work here and I can leave anytime I want. I am not a slave to this company. I'm not a slave to my boss. I'm not a slave to whatever they want, because ultimately, if they decide to piss me off, I'm walking out and I'll deal with the consequences. You know, I've lost jobs. I've been in a situation where I can't pay my bills. And you know what? Somehow I came out on the other side, right? And you will too. You will too. It may not be good. It may not be fun. It may suck in the short term, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. And so the less emotionally attached you are to your job, and the less you care about promotion, and the less you care about the outcome, the better off you're going to be. And so that's the next thing I will say, is not just detach from work emotionally, but literally stop caring. And I don't mean like just slack off and don't do anything, you know, and piss off your boss and all that kind of stuff. But I am talking about, like, at the end of the workday, stop obsessing about your job. Stop obsessing all the time about if you're going to get that promotion. And realize that even if you do get that promotion, sometimes there's a lot of luck that goes into it. And also, the odds are not always stacked in your favor, even if you are a top performer. You might be the top of the top performer, and you might be looked over for promotion simply due to the fact that there could be organizational politics. You know, there could be some manager who likes another person in their department and they want to give them the promotion, and they're buddy with them. They play golf on the weekends. So yeah, you can play that political game too. You know, if you want to try to buddy up with the boss and all that, and sometimes that can work. You know, I mean, I've seen it work, not for myself, but I've seen it work in corporate America. And the truth of the matter is, you know, we are programmed as humans to seek social interaction and to seek, you know, what's the word? The ability to, you know, have cohesion with others and, you know, enjoy their presence and all that. So if there's somebody the boss really likes and they want to promote them, they're probably going to try to do their best to get them that position. And you might not be that fit, even if you are a top performer. So maybe you do end up getting the promotion, but maybe you don't. The point is, stop obsessing about it and stop stressing, stop worrying about it. Now, the next thing I will say, if you hate your job and you're miserable going into work, is, you know, you need to stop staying stagnant. And this is part of the upskilling process. You know, I would say you need to have a goal in mind. Like, my long-term goal is to eventually have some sort of income stream where, and that could be a variety of ways, through a business. It could be through a combination of a business and, you know, investing in dividend stocks like we talk about on the channel. It could be a combination of even just this YouTube channel, making a couple $100 a month extra. That could help out in terms of my long-term financial freedom goal. And ultimately, my goal on this channel is not money, but if I'm able to make some extra money for making these videos and helping you guys out, then that would be awesome. I would love that. But at the same time, I'm not going to stress about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep on trying to make videos that help you guys and that might give you a different perspective on things. And maybe that will result in additional ad revenue, and maybe that will result in my YouTube channel growing, right? But I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket mentally, like a lot of people do with their jobs, where it has to be a certain outcome. You know, they obsess over the outcome. They obsess over and I've been guilty of this too, is obsessing over a specific amount or a specific thing that will happen in your job. You know, it might be a certain salary you're seeking or whatever, and now you're dissatisfied and you're not going to be happy until you get that certain salary or that certain promotion. So that's the other thing is start upskilling, because this is going to allow you to diversify your skill set, but it will also allow you freedom of mind, more freedom, because the more you diversify your skill set and the more you upskill, the less dependent you're going to be on your employer. Because if your employer pisses you off and you don't want to work there anymore, then you can go find another opportunity. It's going to be easier if you have those skills to begin with. And that could be anything. It doesn't have to be a master's degree. It doesn't have to be, getting a Juris Doctor or, becoming an attorney. It doesn't have to be some big goal like that where, you really skill up and you get those skills that the employers are going to pay the 6-figure salaries for. No, like this could be as simple as you're a blue collar worker, for example. Perhaps you need to learn forklift. Perhaps you work for a company that doesn't want to train you on the forklift. I hear a lot of people complain at my job, for example, how they want to get trained on the forklift, and Amazon for some reason doesn't want to train them. But the forklift is a skill that can pay. It may not pay as much as, a lawyer, right? But you can still upskill. You can still learn new things at your current job, and you can take that elsewhere, right? You can also look at getting certifications. You can look at getting, you can work on getting a bachelor's degree if you want to go for that. I'm not sure, that's another story altogether with the whole degree thing and AI and all that. But the point is, there's a lot of opportunity out there, no matter what industry you're in. And the more you diversify your skill set, the less emotionally attached you're going to be to your employer. So it's interesting how that works, because the more and I've noticed this in my own life, is the more skills I've gained, the more, in my case, it was degrees. I did get my master's degree. So now I feel more confident going into my job, because I know if they piss me off, I'm actually overqualified for this job currently that I'm at. I'm working as an operations manager, but I could probably move to a senior manager with my MBA and the experience that I'm gaining. I could probably, do that eventually. And if not at Amazon, I could move to another company. So there's no limit, especially once you upskill, what you can do with those skills. And part of that does become kind of freeing your mind away from your employer. So that's the other thing. But these are just some tips that I've kind of, I've utilized these tips myself, because I used to be one of those people back in my early 20s, especially, and out of high school, I was a slave to the employer. I was a slave to my job. And I think there should be a certain level of respect that you give your job. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they are giving you a paycheck. You should show up and you should put in some moderate effort at least, and you should try to do your best, but you shouldn't have to go above and beyond if you're not getting paid for it, in my personal opinion. There's no reason, unless you really are bent on promotion and stuff. But at the same time, it's kind of like a carrot dangled in front of your face. I mean, yes, you can get promoted, but maybe not. Maybe you're just wasting your energy. I've done that. I've thought, I'm going to get that raise, get that promotion if I show off to the boss, if I really put in the effort, but it didn't happen, right? So these are all things to consider. That's it. And by doing this and by considering these things, I think you're going to be much better off in the long term. Because like I said, I've made a lot of these mistakes. I've been emotionally attached to my employer. I've worked my ass off for that promotion that didn't happen, and this is in my younger years, early 20s. I'm still in my 20s, about to turn 30. But the point is, you can make the same mistakes as I can, no doubt, especially for you younger guys out there. This is just a word of advice entering the workforce. I'm sure a lot of you guys, Gen Z, I think you guys kind of see through a lot of the BS already. But at the same time, these are things to keep in mind as you're entering the workforce. So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. And with that being said, we'll see you all in the next video. Peace and take care, everybody.